Post 1. I'm a licensed contractor, late 30s, small company with 5 guys, and a very boring love of permits. I build kitchens that do not sag, bathrooms that do not leak, and decks that survive winters. I learned the hard way not to mix family and free labor. Years ago, I ate a weekend here and a week there for relatives, and it always ended with scope creep and a story about how I owe them because I know how to frame a door. So, I made a rule. Family gets the same treatment as strangers, just with a courtesy discount. Written bid, deposit, change orders in writing, no freebies. Enter my half-brother Brent, early 30s, mom's golden child. He loves me in a way that makes my neck tense. It is not romantic. It is more like limerence light. He repeats my phrases. He bought my exact work boots after asking what model I wear. He switched his wardrobe to flannels that match my company colors. He started saying, "Measure twice" to baristas. I laughed it off until he ordered a trucker cap that looks like my crew hats and posted a selfie with the caption, "Out here with the boys making it happen." His followers assumed he worked for me. He does not. I corrected it privately. He said, "Chill, man, it is aspirational." Mom, Elaine, thinks it is sweet. Stepdad Ron thinks it is a phase. Last month, they told me they had given Brent a significant renovation budget to flip their house before retirement. He is finally stepping into the family trade, Mom said, beaming like she was pinning a medal on him. I reminded her I spent a decade in apprenticeships, tests, and inspections. She said, "Brent has a good eye." I said, "You cannot eyeball a load path." She asked me to guide him. I said I would happily give them a paid estimate under my license and handle the work with my crew. She did not love the word paid. I stopped by the house the next Saturday because I had a bad feeling. The front door was propped with a paint can. The smell hit first, wet lumber and drywall dust. Brent had torn down the wall between the kitchen and dining room. It was load-bearing. The ceiling line had a very slight smile in it that only another carpenter would see, but once you saw it, you could not unsee it. He had already framed a beam out of 3 2x8s, scabbed together with drywall screws. He had rewired 2 outlets with lamp cord like a YouTube hack. No permit sticker, no dumpster. A garden hose snaked through the kitchen because he had capped a water line with tape and it blew when he tested the dishwasher. I asked where the permit was. He said permits are for suckers and that my crew never bother when we do side jobs. I do not do side jobs like that. I asked about a plan set. He held up a spiral notebook with a sketch that looked like a treasure map. He told me he had DM'd an influencer who said it would be fine. I pulled out my phone and took photos of everything. Date stamps, angles. I told him to stop work immediately, brace the opening, and call the city for an inspector before he sneaks another screw into that beam. He rolled his eyes and told me I was gatekeeping. He said he was trying to be like me and I was jealous I would not be the only builder in the family anymore. The water line spit again and I shut the valve while he argued about my ego. I put my warning in writing that night. Email to Mom and Ron, CC to Brent. The subject line was boring on purpose. Observed unsafe conditions, steps to remediate. I listed the issues and what must happen next. Temporary shoring, stamped drawings, proper LVL sized for span, licensed electrician to correct the hack wiring, permit pulled and inspections scheduled. I attached a formal bid from my company with a family discount that still reflects real time and materials. Deposit required. Work sequenced over 3 weeks with inspector checkpoints. I offered to move another client and eat some cost to fit them in fast because it is my mother's house. Mom replied with a heart reaction, and, "Thank you, sweetheart, we knew you would help." Brent texted 20 minutes later. "So we are good for this weekend then, right? No deposit, no signed contract, no permit." I said no. He blew up the family group chat that I was trying to profit off my own parents. Mom asked if I could just get him over the hump for free. Ron said, "We already gave him the budget. Can you invoice him later?" I said I do not extend credit to a person who thinks drywall screws are structural. I feel like a monster writing this. It is my mother's house. She feeds my crew lasagna when we are on her side of town. I fixed her porch step at midnight last winter after a freeze. Saying no feels wrong in my bones, but so does standing under that smiling ceiling pretending it will not keep smiling until the day it frowns. Brent went on his stories that night wearing a flannel in my color and holding a tape measure like a baton. He called himself a licensed renovator and thanked my mentors for believing in him. A neighbor texted me a photo of a red tag on Mom's door the next morning. The city had been called. I did not call them. Someone with eyes and a sense of gravity did. I sent one more email with my bid attached and a note that we would hold the schedule for 48 hours. After that, I had to release it to another client. Mom called me crying that I was breaking her heart. Ron asked if I could just walk Brent through it by phone so he could save the budget. Brent texted, "You could do this in a weekend if you cared." I stared at my phone until my coffee went cold. So here I am, boring contractor with a boring love of inspectors and receipts. Half-brother who wants my boots and my brand without the years and crawl spaces. Mom asking for family rates that start with the number 0. A red tag on a house I grew up in. A ceiling I do not trust. Am I the jerk for refusing to fix my half-brother's unsafe demo and insisting on a paid contract with permits and a deposit, even though it is my mother's house, and everyone says I am ruining it over money? Comment 1. Not the jerk. That wall is load-bearing. Drywall screws are not structural fasteners. Your written bid with a family discount is more help than they deserve. Keep everything in writing and do not touch it without a permit. Comment 2. He is trying to be like you. One free weekend would fix it and keep peace. Family first, money later. Update 1. Some people asked if I exaggerated the smile in the ceiling or the wiring. I wish I had. The morning after I posted, a neighbor sent me a clearer photo of the red tag. The inspector's name is Miss Doyle. She cited unpermitted structural alterations, unsafe electrical and water damage, required items listed, shoring, stamped drawings, permit, licensed trades, and a stop work. It was not a "come back later" note. It was "shut the door now." While I was reading the tag, Mom called in a panic. "The floors are buckling near the fridge. Can you please just fix it this weekend?" Brent had capped a copper line with tape and optimism. It let go, soaked the subfloor, and crawled under the vinyl. I drove over with my foreman, Luis, because water is time-sensitive. Before I touched anything, I texted a photo to the family group. Entering to locate shutoffs only. No further work without contract. Then we traced the leak, shut the valve, and left fans. Ms. Doyle arrived while we were packing up. She thanked us for not touching structure and told Mom kindly that the house stays red-tagged until a real plan is filed. Mom cried in the driveway. She asked if I could walk Brent through what to say, so the inspector would let him finish. Ms. Doyle heard and shook her head. "Ma'am, I will only accept stamped drawings and licensed trades." Brent strutted out in my brand colors and called her power tripping. I watched her write another line on the notice without raising her voice. That calm is a skill I envy. I went home and sent a formal rescue bid again, this time with explicit line items so there could be no "you never said" later. Temporary shoring and engineer consult. Proper LVL sized for span, installed with hardware. Electrical remediation by licensed electrician. Plumbing repair and drying protocol. Permit pull, rough-in, and final inspections. Flooring demo and subfloor replacement in affected area. Project management and city walkthroughs. Subtotal with a family discount. Deposit due on signing. Progress draws tied to inspections. I also attached my insurance and license, plus a calendar slot I had moved for them that expires in 3 business days. Brent replied first, "Bro, this is like 3 weekends tops." "Why are you gouging your own mom?" I wrote back. "This is a structural and code remediation scope." "It is not a weekend," Mom chimed in. Sweetheart, can you just do the shoring and beam for free so we do not lose the permit? There is no permit. That is the whole problem. That night, Brent posted a reel. He called himself a licensed renovator, thanked my mentors, and said haters were trying to hold him back. He wore my boot model and one of those knockoff hats that look like our crew caps. He showed the red tag and said, "We fixed this." He had not. Comments were the usual mix. Some strangers cheered. A neighbor wrote, "Please stop before the ceiling falls." He deleted that comment. Ms. Doyle emailed a clarification to everyone on my thread. She requires stamped drawings, proper fasteners, and licensed trades. She also said any unpermitted work after the tag could trigger fines. I forwarded it to Mom and Ron. Ron replied, "We already gave Brent the budget. Can you invoice him later?" I said, "I do not extend credit to an unlicensed person who has publicly misrepresented my company. Deposit is required." He read it and did not answer. I am not made of granite. I stood in my kitchen holding that bid and felt like the bad guy. It is my mother's house. She has fed my crew. She once slipped cash to my apprentice for school books. I started to type, "I can float the deposit," and deleted it. I have 5 employees who expect me to be the adult when someone waves a family flag over a job that could crush them if we do not do it right. I am not tanking payroll to save face for a man who thinks drywall screws are structural. Brent came by my shop in person. He said, "You could do this for free and be a hero." He said, "I am trying to be like you." He said, "If you do not help, Mom loses money and it is on you." I told him I would love to fix it under contract. He said, "You are jealous." I said, "I am busy." He left muttering about how I owe family. 2 hours later, Mom texted, "We will find someone else." 10 minutes after that, she called crying to ask if I would at least talk her through what to say to the city. I told her the only sentence that works is, "We will hire a licensed contractor and pull permits." She said, "But we already have one," meaning her son. My jaw hurt from clenching. I know the Reddit chorus will say to walk away and let natural consequences happen. I also know if that ceiling droops 1 more inch, I will not sleep. Here is my compromise with my guilt. I will keep the fans running and the valve shut for free so the water does not eat her subfloor. Everything else is contract only. Am I the jerk for holding the line on a signed paid contract with permits and refusing to just do the beam this weekend for free after a red tag and active water damage, even though it is my mother's house and she already sunk money into Brent's project? Comment 1. Not the jerk. Your bid, discount, and calendar hold are generous. Ms. Doyle is right. Stamped drawings or no dice. Keep doing only emergency shutoffs without pay and nothing more until a contract is signed. Comment 2. It is your mom. Do the beam and electrical now. Sort the paperwork later. You are letting pride cost your family more. Update 2. The family pile-on arrived right on schedule. You're ruining Brent's future. He was only trying to be like you. A good brother would show up with a tool belt, not a bid. Meanwhile, the quiet texts trickled in from people who actually swing hammers. Aunt Mara, keep everything in writing. Proud of you. A neighbor, thank you for calling Miss Doyle. The house was starting to groan. I didn't call Miss Doyle, but I appreciated the sentiment. Brent stayed smug. He doubled down online, again calling himself licensed, again wearing knockoff versions of my crew gear. He filmed in front of the red tag and captioned it, "All handled." It was not. The escalation hit at 1:12 a.m. I know the time because Mom called whisper crying. She woke to a crack pop, then a dull thunk. Brent had snuck back in after midnight to finish the beam. Translation: he smeared construction adhesive across his 3 scabbed 2x8s, ran a forest of deck screws, and yanked out the remaining temporary studs. The ceiling line dipped another half-inch. A cabinet shifted, pulling its anchors. In the chaos, he nicked a soft copper line to the range. There was a faint gas smell, then more crying. I told Mom to hang up and call 911. I texted Ms. Doyle and my foreman, Luis. We met the fire crew at the curb. I only touched one thing, with the captain's permission: the shutoff. Then I stepped back. The room looked like a YouTube fail thumbnail in real life. Fire taped the doorway. Ms. Doyle arrived, saw the glue and screw beam, and added unsafe structural plus gas hazard to the notice. She said the words calm, like a lullaby for people who don't listen. Mom tried to say this never would have happened if I'd just done the beam last weekend. Ms. Doyle turned to her gently. "Ma'am, your son is not the problem here. The process is not optional. Brent said I was gatekeeping the family trade." Luis blinked at him like a cat watching a laser pointer, then asked the captain if he could set 2 temp posts to relieve load until a contractor pulls permits. The captain nodded. We installed shoring in 5 minutes that Brent had avoided for 5 weeks. Then we left. At 9 a.m., I sent the final version of my rescue terms, short and hard lines bolded so there could be no confusion. Signed contract at full scope. Deposit before mobilization. Stamped drawings and permit pulled under my license. Brent offsite for the duration. Written retraction of licensed claims and removal of my brand colors from his posts. All communication through me or Luis, not via group chat. Ron replied that their cash was tapped because they already advanced Brent the renovation fund. I said I understood and that I could hold the slot until Friday at noon. After that, I'd release it to the waiting client I'd already inconvenienced. Elaine sent 3 crying emojis followed by, "You're choosing money over family." I didn't bite. I wrote, "I'm choosing permits and safety. Same for strangers, same for you." Insurance came by. The adjuster took one look at the glue beam and the red tag and said, "Homeowner negligence," in a careful tone. Coverage might help with water dryout, but not with the structural mess. Ron looked like a man who just realized a coupon won't work on a totaled car. I want to be clear about something. I felt bad. Then I read your comments again, and the fog lifted. I thanked Ms. Doyle for being steady. I texted Aunt Mara a heart. I opened my own ledger and wrote, "Escalation handled per plan." The key difference from week 1 to now is I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I didn't teach Brent spans and fasteners. I gave the same boundary a second time, slower, like I was talking to a stubborn dog. Contract or nothing. He posted one more reel trying to spin the fire tape as part of the process. He tagged a big box brand asking for a collab they didn't answer. I'm not adding a new question because nothing has changed except the ceiling. I'm still the boring guy with rails. If they sign, I'll fix it. If they don't, I won't. Paper or piece. Comment 1. You handled that by the book. Shoring with the captain's permission, then out. The house will thank you later. Hold your Friday deadline. Releasing that slot is leverage and fairness to your other client. Comment 2. Thank Ms. Doyle again. Glue and deck screws are not a beam. Your bolded terms are perfect. If Brent wants to be like you, he can start by enrolling in a codes class and taking off your fake colors. Update 3. Family meeting at my shop. I chose neutral ground because Mom cries at her dining table and Brent treats any living room like a stage. I put a printed copy of my bid on the conference table, plus Ms. Doyle's correction notice and a calendar with the Friday noon hold circled. Luis sat in. He looks like calm in boots. Brent opened by saying he wanted to be my partner. He said if I let him wear the brand on this job, he could build clout and it would help us both. He asked me to shadow my crew so he could learn in real time. He said I should waive the deposit because family. He called me greedy twice in 5 minutes, then told me I am the reason the house is red tagged because I would not help earlier. Classic spin. Classic DARVO. I did not argue. I read my terms out loud, slow. Contract at full scope. Deposit before mobilization. Stamped drawings and permits under my license. Brent off-site. Written retraction of licensed renovator claims and removal of my colors from his content. All communication through me or Luis. Any breach pauses work and incurs a standby fee. I slid a pen across the table. Mom said I was humiliating her son. Ron said they are out of liquid because Brent's advance is gone. Brent said I can just do the beam and let him finish. I said that crossed my boundary on day one, and it still does. He tried to talk over me. Luis picked up the pen, tapped it once, and said, "Deposit or we release the slot at noon Friday." Plain voice. It landed. Brent switched tactics. He did the poor me routine. He said he only wanted to be like me. He said he thought I would be proud. He said the internet gets it, and I do not. Mom squeezed his arm like he was 5. I felt the usual tug to be the good son who fixes. I thought about that smiling ceiling and about my crew's paychecks. Then I anchored to the paper in front of me. I added one more condition. Brent must post a correction within 24 hours. I am not licensed. I misrepresented myself. We are hiring a licensed contractor and will follow permits. He laughed. I will not embarrass myself. I nodded. Then I will not carry your liability. Ron asked if I could lower the deposit. I told him the deposit is actually higher now because the site risk is higher. He flinched. Brent called me a thief. Luis stood up. That was my cue. I closed my folder and said, "You have until Friday at noon." After that, I released the slot. Mom cried. Brent shouted that he would find someone who respects family. Ron stared at the floor like it might open. I walked out. Not a dramatic exit. Just a door, a hallway, and air that felt cleaner. On the way back to the yard, Miss Doyle called. She had issued a formal correction timeline with fines that start ticking in 3 days. She also flagged the false license claims to code enforcement. She thanked me for keeping my company off the site. I thanked her for being specific. She said, "Specific keeps houses upright." By dinner, the guilt texts rolled in. "You are letting your mother live with a hole. You always thought you were better. He looks up to you." Aunt Mara finally broke her silence in the group thread. She posted screenshots. Brent's licensed claims, the red tag, Ms. Doyle's line about stamped drawings, and my bid with the family discount circled. Then she wrote, "Enough. He is not licensed. He lied. He broke things. OP gave a discount and a schedule. Sign or stop texting. I did not know I needed an aunt with that spine. Turns out I did. I slept. That sounds small. It was not. It was the kind of sleep where you do not wake to count studs in your head. This is the breaking point. Either they sign and we do it right, or they deal with fines and a sagging story. I am not the antagonist in a play. I am a contractor with rails. Friday at noon is the only language I speak now. Am I the jerk for demanding a correction post, a higher deposit due to risk, and a full off-site order for Brent, then leaving when they refused and letting the fines start? I hate being the wall. I also love houses that do not fall. Comment 1. Not the jerk. The correction post is necessary. He created public confusion about licensure. Higher deposit for higher risk is normal. Walking out was the only safe move left. Comment 2. You humiliated him. Let him shadow and learn. Drop the social media demand. He is your brother, not a rival. Update 4. Friday at 11:53 a.m., Ron texted, "We're passing." At 12:01, I released the slot to the waiting client and went back to hanging laundry list punch items. By 4 p.m., a cut-rate crew was loading a compressor into Mom's driveway. No license magnet, no company name, just 3 guys and a promise. Brent posted, "We found a team who believes in family." Ms. Doyle posted a new correction notice on the door Monday. By Wednesday, the crew ghosted after ripping out more drywall. Fines started ticking. Insurance repeated the phrase, "homeowner negligence." You could hear Ron's wallet wince. Aunt Mara finally went loud in the family thread. Screenshots, the red tag, Ms. Doyle's list, Brent's fake licensed posts. my bid with the family discount highlighted, and the nighttime fire tape photo. Then, stop calling OP greedy. Sign his contract or stop texting. Half the cousins went silent. The other half pivoted to, we didn't know. Elaine wrote, we are being targeted by a difficult inspector. Ms. Doyle, who was in CC from my earlier emails, replied, calm, surgical. The requirements are the same for everyone. I want her framed on my wall. 2 fines later, Ron called me privately. He sounded like a man who had tasted every cheap shortcut and found them all made of salt. We'll sign, he said. We can do the deposit tomorrow. I reissued the bid with a higher deposit due to increased site risk, plus a standby clause and a no Brent term in bold. I also included the social media correction language. 20 minutes after wiring the deposit, the correction went up on Brent's feed. I am not licensed. I misrepresented that. We are hiring a licensed contractor and will follow permits. The caption tried to add sauce. Haters gonna gatekeep. But the first sentence was mine. Exactly. We mobilized. Permit application in by noon. Stamped drawings submitted. Temporary power set. Shoring corrected. Luis posted the city inspection schedule on the refrigerator like it was a chore chart. Elaine hovered, then retreated when Ms. Doyle arrived and greeted me by name. Brent tried to pop by to learn. Luis met him at the sidewalk, pointed to the contract clause and said, not today. Brent did the long stare people think is intimidating. Luis blinked slow like a cat and went back to the laser level. That was the last sidewalk scene. We demoed back to clean edges and rebuilt forward, LVL sized for span, hangers and fasteners that could make a choir sing, electrician undoing the lamp cord sins, plumbing rerun, dry out signed off, subfloor replaced, rough passed, insulation and board up, finish paint, floors feathered. Ms. Doyle walked the site twice, asked 2 sharp questions, signed 2 approvals. The ceiling line finally stopped smiling. Elaine stayed brittle but polite. Ron apologized with actions, not speeches. He brought coffee for my crew and never asked for one more little thing. Brent unfollowed my business accounts and started posting motivational quotes in my color palette. That particular limerent sting was more funny than painful. Copy the colors? You still cannot copy the permit. When I sent the first progress draw, Ron paid within an hour. He also forwarded the fine receipts with a note. We'll cover these. I didn't respond with a lecture. I responded with a thank you and a photo of the correct beam, because proof is the only language that sticks in this family. Am I the jerk for raising the deposit after they blew the deadline, enforcing the no Brent clause at the sidewalk, and requiring a public correction before mobilizing? It felt severe. It also felt like the only reason that ceiling is still above anyone's head. Comment 1. Not the jerk. The correction post protects the public and your license. Higher deposit after increased risk is standard. Also, shout out to Ms. Doyle for being everyone's favorite NPC. Comment 2. You humiliated him with that public correction. You could have taught him on site. Family learns by doing. OP reply. He can learn in trade school, not under my license on a red-tagged house. The correction fixed his misrepresentation and kept my company out of a lie. Final update. 8 months later. The house is quiet again. The good kind. The beam sits true. The outlets read green, and the floor doesn't whisper when you cross it. Ms. Doyle signed final. She shook my hand and said, boring is beautiful. I want that on the side of my truck. Money settled in neat lines. I invoiced the last draw. Ron paid in full the same day. He also reimbursed my mother's fines without asking for a discount. The accountant labeled it against prior advances, which means Brent's renovation fund is now a line item retired early. There were no fights about it, just a receipt and peace. Family dynamics cooled to polite. Elaine hosts Sunday dinners again with the kitchen safe instead of open concept because Brent saw a reel. She still introduces Brent as my creative one and me as our contractor, which is closer to truth than it used to be. Aunt Mara sits next to me with a glass of iced tea and asks after my crew by name. She is the person who kept the group chat honest. She will get free labor only in the form of smoke detector batteries and Thanksgiving chairs. Brent enrolled in a night codes and framing course at the community college. He sent me a photo of a textbook page about load paths, no caption. He has not asked to join my crew, and I have not offered. He stopped wearing my knockoff hat and switched to some generic hustle merch in similar colors. The limerence cooled once the boundaries held. He imitates from a distance now, which is survivable. On my side, the company is steadier. Luis got a raise and a new apprentice who takes notes without filming themselves. We picked up 2 jobs from neighbors who said, "We saw how you handled the red tag." Reputation, it turns out, is built one boring letter at a time. I don't feel triumphant. I feel aligned. The rule I wrote years ago to protect myself, family gets the same treatment as strangers, with a courtesy discount and the same paperwork, survived a real test. Rails worked. The house stands. My mother cooks under a beam that won't blink. That's the kind of ending I want in this line of work. If you're sitting on a family mess with drywall dust in your lungs and a phone buzzing with guilt, here is the line I practiced until it stuck. I love you. I will fix it under contract. I will not carry your liability. Then I sent the bid, and when needed, I walked out. The ceiling is still above our heads because I did. Our heads because I did. Our heads because I did.